Okay, we're going to go through how to put a fan in a power supply. You check the fan here, you see this one's locked up. It should be turning a lot more free than that. Here's a new fan. See how easily it spins. This is what we want. So we're going to start by disassembling the power supply. There's 4 screws on the top here. We'll take those out. One of them's hidden by the sticker on the side. Get these 4 screws out of the top, and that will release the whole outer cover so we can get to the fan to get it removed. Here we see there's 4 screws in the back side that holds the fan in itself through the back of the power supply. We're going to take these 4 screws out here, then we can pull the fan out and show you how to clip the wires. Now that we've got the cover off, here's the fan out. We're going to clip the wires by the fan to give us as much wire to work with as we can get. Here's our new fan. We're going to cut this back off the connector a little ways so we can use the connector for something else if we need to. We're now going to strip about 1/2 of an inch of the insulation off the end of the wires on the fan and on the wires that are connected to the power supply. Once we get the wire stripped off, we twist the wire ends so that they won't be frayed out. Now we're going to take some shrink tube and slide on the long fan wires. Before we twist all the wires together, we want the shrink tube on there. I'm just going to cut a little 3-inch piece of 1/8 shrink tubing, slide one piece over each wire and get it back out of the way so we can work with putting our splices together. Do this one piece on each wire. Okay, this is a Westinghouse splice. Cross it over in the center, hold the right hand and twist the left one, and then hold the left side and twist the right one back the other direction. This is a really good splice for soldering. Even though you're not seeing much detail here, I'll show you what the splice looks like when it's done. Now I use a little handy holder here to hold these together when I do my soldering. It's much easier than trying to push it around on a table and grab another hand. These are really good helping hands. So I'll put the alligator clips pretty close to where I'm going to solder. And I'm going to solder these together. I want to heat the wire, not the solder, and keep the solder against the wire next to the soldering gun. This will give us the smoothest and best flow of the solder to go completely through the wires. There's one, and we're going to end up doing the other one the same way. This is a black wire. We want to of course connect the black to the black and the red to the red. If your fan has a black, red, and white, or black, red, and a yellow, you will only use the black and the red and snip the yellow or the white off close to the new fan, because you won't be needing it. We finish the solder up on the red wire here, and we're getting ready to take this out, slide the heat shrink tubing centered over these solder connections, and then heat the heat shrink tubing. I'm going to just center it over the solder connection with each piece of heat shrink tubing. You can feel right there to see if it's in the middle. Now we do the same on the other wire. Heat shrink tubing is really slick stuff. Looks a lot better than black tape and seals it off against moisture. I'm just going to clean the power supply with a little brush here and knock some of the dust out of it, which is most of the reason that the old fan was locked up. And then we're going to place the new fan back in. Now watch this. This is the front. This is the intake. It's going to go through that way. We want it to exhaust the air out of the power supply. So we place the back side of the fan towards the outside of the power supply. We're going to use a regular screwdriver to put these screws back in, not a power driver, because these can strip out fairly easy and you can break your fan. Same thing with the screws on the top cover. We want to make sure to use a regular screwdriver, not a power driver. This whole process takes about 15 minutes, and you can go from a no good fan and a power supply to a brand new one. Here we're going to reroute the wires, make sure that they stay out of the way of the fan so that they won't get into the fan when the power supply is running. We're just going to wrap them around some existing hot wires here and kind of tie them off so that they can't come loose. Once we make sure that those wires are secured, then we can put the cover back on. Here we go. Now when you put your cover back on, make sure that you line up your slot that goes in the grommet in the back. And over on the sides, the power supply usually has a lip that you have to slide inside the base. Make sure that the lips are slid in on both sides, and they are. Grommet's good. Now we'll put the 4 screws back in at the top of the power supply. Once we get these 4 screws in, we'll be all done. And there. Congratulations. Now you know how to put a power supply fan inside of a power supply.